All right.
Did they say we gotta use a microphone?
We'll go ahead. Yeah. We have new microphones, all commissioners, so be sure to position it accordingly for the recording. So we'll go ahead and call this work session to order. The first item of business we have before us is employee recognitions. First for the fire department, so I'll welcome Chief Seiler.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. First off, I'd like to take the opportunity to present to you how we arrived at today. For the fiscal year 24, the Red Bank Fire Department presented a need to the city manager and the commission for reorganization of the leadership team during the budget process. This was approved and a process was put in place to select the best two candidates for captain/shift commander to lead the daily activities of the fire department after two written tests, a 100-question and a 70-question test, along with an assessment center made up of 3 chief officers from outside agencies, which consisted of an inbox exercise, an interview, and a simulated exercise. We have arrived at this moment where we'll introduce the 2 newly promoted captains. First, I'd like to call up firefighter DPO Larry Olivier. Now, Captain Olivier started his full-time service career with the Chattanooga Fire Department in November 2009. He joined the Red Bank Fire Department in July of 2013 as a part-time employee. Captain Oliver left the Chattanooga Fire Department in October 2020 and became a full-time firefighter DPO for the Red Bank Fire Department. Captain Oliver finished first out of 3 candidates to complete the process. Captain Oliver is married Olivier. Sorry, Larry. I know that's wrong. He's married to Kara and they have 2 sons. He is also a veteran of the United States Air Force where he served from 2002 to 2008. Certificate of promotion, Larry.
Congratulations.
Their captain's badge.
Okay,
Next, we have firefighter DPO Robert Pilkington. Now, Captain Pilkington started his fire service career as a volunteer with the Graysville, Tennessee Fire Department in 2005. During his tenure in Graysville, which he is still a volunteer, he has served in numerous positions to include chief from October of 22 to August of this year. Captain Pilkington started his full-time fire service career with the Dayton Fire Department in February of 2019. In August of 2021, he left Dayton as a full-time member and became a full-time member of the Red Bank Fire Department as a firefighter DPO. Captain Pilkington finished second out of the 3 candidates to complete the process. Captain Pilkington is married to Kelly, and they have a blended family with 1 son and 1 daughter. Congratulations, Captain Pilkington.
in your color grass. I don't need you to come to me in a year saying I need more color.
Both men have served our department and our citizens well as firefighter DPO since joining as driver pump operators. They have worked hard to position themselves to be a leader in the Red Bank Fire Department. I truly believe they have a passion for the community, the department, and what we do on a day-to-day basis to keep our little community of Red Bank safe. I believe they have the ability to make great strides in their leadership abilities. I believe they're eager to learn and have the utmost respect for both men and have complete confidence that they both will fulfill their roles as captain shift commander for many years to come. Thank you for all you've done in the future. Very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations and well-deserved captains Olivier and Pilkington. Thank you for joining us. The next item of business we have is a volunteer recognition. I'd like to call on City Manager Martin Granum.
Mayor, could we have a?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Thank you. We have one more. We have one more recognition. My apologies. Public Works Director Tate.
Our Chief Seiler set the bar a little high for me with the profiles, but I like to call Michael Edwards out. Michael Edwards is a product of commission goals to revamp our stormwater, and thanks to the commission, we're allowed to hire a heavy equipment operator this year as part of our budget. And Michael comes to us with experience. He's a veteran of the Army Reserve, and he had experience operating equipment. We've given him a couple of days to kind of get back in the swing of things, operating equipment, but almost immediately he began working in the streets, making progress, cleaning ditches, straightening out and flushing tiles. And, he's barely been here 2 weeks. And he's already, made progress more so in stormwater than we've had in recent months and years. And we welcome him to our team, Michael Edwards.
Congratulations. Welcome, Mr. Edwards, and thank you for your service.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Now we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, volunteer recognitions. Mr. Granum.
Good evening, Commissioners. As you know, the City of Red Bank is a steward of many aspects of this community, and the Commission and staff takes our stewardship responsibilities very seriously. One example of us acting on our stewardship responsibilities is the amazing work being done at our Red Bank Cemetery. I am joined here this evening by Sal Avila Jr. Sal, if you would come up and stand next to me, please. You're going to be up here for a while, but I'd like you up here next to me for this one. Chair of the Cemetery Citizens Advisory Board. The commission-appointed Cemetery Citizens Advisory Board is hitting it out of the park, and you'll learn more about that here shortly. After several volunteer cleanups led by the committee, it's already visibly transformed. Stay tuned for that trend to continue in remarkable and heartwarming ways. Staff also plays a key role here too, namely in the execution of routine grounds maintenance responsibilities. However, after many years of passive maintenance, we recently identified a need for major tree and landscaping work. But it's simply not a good idea for anyone to simply show up and start cutting and removing stuff without a plan, and especially a plan informed by real expertise. Enter Don McKenzie and Larry Miller. Gentlemen, if you would come up and stand with Sal and I. Don?
Yes, sir.
Larry? Knowing their passion and background in not only community service, but also in trees and native plants in particular, we asked Don if he would develop a Red Bank Cemetery tree and vegetation management plan. And I actually placed a copy of this for you up there on your things to take a look at after the meeting. Don agreed and enlisted the help of Larry Miller, and together they developed a plan before you. It's a concise, actionable guide to what should stay and what needs to go. It's a clear roadmap for staff to follow as we restore Red Bank Cemetery to its status as a cherished place of quiet reflection and remembrance in the heart of Red Bank. And we have already, staff, specifically Justin, has already removed 30 dead and dying trees. The impact of this plan has just been huge. So, certificate of appreciation presented to Don McKenzie. In grateful appreciation of your hard work to develop the Red Bank Cemetery tree management plan, complete with an aerial photo and field map cross-referenced with an Excel spreadsheet. Your findings and recommendations, along with a written management plan for the Red Bank Cemetery, are truly an asset to the City of Red Bank. This outstanding plan will guide our stewardship of the Red Bank Cemetery for generations and is an invaluable gift to the families and community members for which the cemetery is a place of comfort and peace. And it's signed by the chair, Sal, myself, Public Works Director Tate, Facility Manager Justin Hedrick, and Mayor Holly Berry. Don, thank you.
Thank you.
And Larry, I have one that sounds remarkably similar. It's a certificate of appreciation presented to Larry Miller and reads the same, and it is signed by the same. It's my pleasure to present it to you as well, Larry. Thank you. John, you care to say anything?
Speech.
Just that one of the benefits of being retired and having some certain set of skills from my working life, it's a pleasure to be able to apply that time and those skills to help our community. So I enjoyed it and appreciate the opportunity.
I appreciate it, Don. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd take a moment to
Yes,
give
please,
a shout out. A few weeks ago, they had a work session. They had about 40 high school students from the Lions Club, the Junior Lions, from Interact, which is the Rotary, and from the ROTC at the high school. The experience those young people had in being in this historic spot, I think was pretty cool.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Mayor, that's it for the volunteer recognition. Thank you, ma'am.
I'd like to welcome back Sal Arrigo Jr. for a update on the Cemetery Citizens Advisory Board.
Thanks, Mayor.
Welcome back.
Thank you. And thanks, Commission, for allowing me to be here for a few moments. I don't know how Larry knew all of that information. He wasn't even there for that work session.
I have people.
Okay. We will go through this, Martin, you will help me. I have to say, we have an outstanding citizens committee. We not only have an outstanding citizens committee, but we have the tremendous backing of you all, of the city, of Justin and Martin. They get out there and work their tails off, and Hayes and I, we can tell you that we got a little dirty that day, October 14th. Okay, this, we'll start here. I didn't know we were gonna get this picture, but, and I apologize. I'm supposed to be looking at you all, but
Yeah, you do you, babe. You good.
this is a World War I.
Civil War.
Civil War veteran in our cemetery. How do I make it go faster?
He mustered, he's a very East Tennessee story. He
Okay.
mustered in Tennessee. He joined a Union outfit from Tennessee for the Civil War. It's a very East Tennessee story, and he's buried in our Red Bank Cemetery.
And that brings up a point. What we're going to do when we're done finishing the cemetery, making it into a jewel, we're going to pick certain people and write up a little biography of them so that we can pass out to the community to say, hey, did you know that so-and-so lived here and this is what they did? And you know, when you research into a cemetery, which I did out west, boy, do you find all those skeletons in the closet, but it really makes for great reading and genealogy as well. You could read for yourselves the cemetery members. We have a tremendous crew. They're dedicated to getting this cemetery up to date. You see the students that Larry had mentioned from Red Bank High School, the junior ROTC. We had one lady who just saw it on Facebook. She came and joined, and I'm trying to convince her to join our board because we do have one position open. And I tell you, yeah, a champion, Justin, that guy, we worked him hard. He had to go back out several times to get supplies, but him and his son were there, and they were real awesome. We appreciate that. The 2 work days we've had, April 29th, but this picture is October 14th. You see the people who volunteered. Stephanie here, let me just say, mention about her. She has worked in cemetery preservation for a long time. And we are so fortunate to have her guide us along, not only cleaning the facilities and the headstones, but I'm pretty sure have about 99% of them clean. That's one of the process. And look, our commissioner, Hayes is right there with his son, who was a great help.
He's a big helper.
This is the process of you spray it with water, then there's a D2 formula that they spray on and you let it stay for a little bit. We can scrape it if we must, and then you spray with water, and it's amazing all of the crud that comes off of the tombstones. And then if you go back about 2 to 3, 4 weeks later, they're much cleaner. So we're about 99% of getting them all done right now, which is a huge step in our direction. Angela, I believe that's her name. She just showed up. She said, I want to help. We are going to, the Citizens Board is going to invite the commission out somewhere in the spring. We have one more major project to do, but we want you all to come out and just look. We can show you pictures. I could talk all day, but just to see the visuals, especially on the north, right on the north side, where there was a whole trivet hedge, it's all gone. it's all done. But it's making a tremendous impact, and we could already see that it's starting to come alive. Look at these two hardworking guys. You could look over Hayes' back there. That used to be a whole fence line there of trivets and thick growth and brush. The homeowner that's on the other side there said, just do whatever you need to do to take care of it. I think they're very pleased that the city and volunteers are cleaning this up. But that's the process, and Hayes and I had a wonderful time there in the cemetery. Now, Martin, you gotta help me a little bit with this one.
Top left is beginning, top right is after we've applied the D2. Bottom left is rinsing it off, and bottom right is it all cleaned up. So you compare the top left where you can't really read anything to the bottom right where it all pops. And it gets better over time. The D2 soaks in the porous stone in the coming months, and actually it gets more clear for about 6 months.
Yeah, and you don't have to do that again for 5 years. Yeah, and so that's something in our favor. And then this is a gentleman, John Alexander Ely, who was a Confederate States of America soldier. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. All right. Just if I have 2 more seconds, Don and I went out there today to do another survey to bring back to the advisory board and the commission on what needs to be done next. Another cleanup. We'll schedule that somewhere in April, maybe May. But we had 34 volunteers on October 14th. That was, people were looking at each other and they were talking, and you didn't even know this person from that person, but they got to know, like you and Abby got together and talked for the whole 2 hours. And we just have to make some decisions coming up. Mark has been asking me for a budget plan, and we're about ready to get there in the next few days. Right, Mark?
When you're ready.
When I'm ready.
Ready for that conversation.
But thanks. Any questions? This is great.
Well, I always knew many hands light the load, right? And, that was one of those things. It's amazing what you can get with volunteers done. But the caliber of volunteers that we have between Larry and Dawn and Sal and the
Stephanie Harris.
and I mean, it's just astounding. I never thought as such. You know what I'm saying? It was like, well, we could just have these volunteers, but you guys are knocking it out of the park. It's
Not
unbelievable.
just any volunteers, the right volunteers.
Yeah. I mean, they're the high quality of the volunteers that we're getting there.
I think also that when they know it's ending, that we feed them.
Oh, okay.
So
We
come on
ran out
out.
of food last time.
Well, thank you for your service. We're so
Yes.
excited
Oh, yeah,
to see
thank
the
you.
cemetery coming back to life. All right. Next on the agenda, we have a presentation of business plans. Mr. Branham, do you have anything to add on this one, or should I give it right over to Chief Seymour?
We'll go right to Chief/CIO Dan Seymour.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How long do we have? Okay. Oh, good. I got about 30 minutes.
You want to talk fast?
Well, I'm to one extreme or the other. I'm usually quiet, don't say anything, or I talk a lot. I don't know. So before you were 3 documents. If you would just follow along, because I'll read out loud. So follow the little bouncy ball. No, the first document, just kind of briefly, is it's a list of our goals. About every January, we in our department set our goals for the agency. Now, this is this current year, so within about a month, we're going to be finishing those up. We've been doing this for a while. A lot of it had to do with accreditation standards and all, which you'll hear a little bit about. But On this main, this one is just overall goals. It really didn't have to do with a business plan or necessarily a physical responsibilities, even though there's a few things in there with that. Flipping over to that actual first page where it talks about overall agency goals. These goals, I'm just going to kind of highlight some of the goals in each area, but on this first page, it's just talking about keeping our record storage management and our archives and old documents, kind of going through those, making sure that those are kept in order, as we maintain that. Civil enforcement is just kind of identifying those problem areas and seeking evictions for like criminal behavior and activities, but we haven't had any probably in a couple of years, which I guess is kind of a good thing. There's a lot of standards to meet there. You can't just evict anybody. There's a lot of there has to be a nuisance and they have to own the property and all that. But that's just one of the things we keep in our mind in case we do have a particular problem area. Communication, like anywhere, working on the budget. We work on the next page. Just talks about promoting cooperation and teamwork between not only in our agency, but amongst other agencies and groups in our area and partners throughout. Mental health resources, that's really important to us to provide for the community and internally. One benefit, there was an incident where kind of a death occurred and all, and the family really didn't have any resources. So our chaplain associated with our department was able to reach out, and they reached back out to our chaplain who provided the service for that family. And otherwise they would not have had that. So kind of helping not only just for our agency and department, but also the community. Increased staffing, which we've approved upon as far as adding a couple in this budget. So that goal has been met, which is thanks to you passing the budget. Next, just some general services on uniform services. This really has to do with make sure that we provide quality law enforcement services through our uniform services, that we maintain trust and support from the community, and of course list how we plan on doing that. And I'm not going to sit here and read this. I'm just really orienting you to the document because I don't want to, that would take all night to read all this. Goal 3, really important, making sure that we provide a safe environment to our communities so they feel like that they're secure. The next page, it talks about professional standards, just that we maintain our quality of service for different areas, making sure that our training is met, that we handle complaints, certification, that our training and field training programs are up to date. The goal 2 has to do with maintaining our state accreditation, which is really important to us. We actually, the city manager was going to mention this in the city manager report, I think, but we're currently going through an assessment on our accreditation. And so the program is sponsored by the Tennessee Association of Chiefs of Police, and they set out about 164 standards that we have to have in policy, and that we not only have in policy, but that we follow those policies. So they've been reviewing our files. Then on Thursday, there's an assessment team that's going to be here on site at our department to do a walkthrough, to do interviews with employees and making sure that we meet those standards. Then they make a recommendation to the committee. So we're currently involved in that, and we're looking forward to that completion of that. And we believe we'll meet that for sure. The next one has to do with our criminal investigations as far as maintaining clearance rates and maintaining, goal 1 talks about destruction of unclaimed property and evidence. There's actually an item on the agenda tonight, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when that comes up. So these are just our annual goals that we review every year and update those. Of course, some of them are kind of standard with the budget requests and different things, but some of them do change from time to time. The next one has to do with the police department's physical budget plan. It's the other blue. It should have been the second one in your packet. So, this packet really has to follow along with our budget. It's kind of the main parts of our budget and what we've been spending on. So it kind of provides us a timeline with a few things. Goal 1 was the violent crimes detective, which we've been able to fill, and they're actually in position, and he actually been in training. We're really he's in training this week. He was in training, I think, last week. Next week, he goes to another class. There's some good free classes that actually just hit right about the same time in the Chattanooga area that we're able to participate in. The Sheriff's Department hosted a detectives class, investigations class, and we were able to participate in that. So we're able to do that, fill and add position for the police department, which we haven't backfilled that detective position yet, but we'll be working on that. I've been a little slow to move on that because of our vehicle situation, just, overall. So, but we're going to, when Ms. Terry gets back, and we're going to be doing an effort to recruiting, and hopefully in January or so have those two positions onboarded. At least that's my intent there for sure. Patrol vehicles is part of it. Onboard replacement laptop. So, we approved that. We actually got one of them implemented like last week in the field. So Stacy's working on those so we can get those implemented. Goal 5 was to install our live scan machine, our fingerprint machine. It's done and installed, and I think even paid for by now. So we can check that one off the list. 6 was increasing our staffing to improve service and delivery to our community. So again, it's kind of backfilling those. I say backfilling, but we added one to the budget, and then we've got to fill the spot that the detective position took, so we can have those on patrol. 7 kind of has to do with 6, and that we have to acquire all the equipment that it takes to hire somebody. So most of that equipment has been ordered, is either has come in or is on order. So we're looking at that. Goal 8 actually is on the agenda for tonight as well, as far as in-car cameras to add them to the vehicles that we ordered. Goal 9 has to do with that violent crimes grant. That had to do with any of the collaborative grants, so the grant with the LPR systems and all. So we're working on that. We just submitted our application to the Tennessee Department of Transportation. They have to approve the locations. And so that was submitted, I think last week we submitted that. That could take several months, and then they have to order the equipment. So before any cameras are even up, it may be a year. I don't know. It's a long process to be able to do that as well. So that'll be ongoing. And as that project continues and goes, as we get it implemented, we'll give you periodic updates, from that project for sure. Goal 10 has to do with the state accreditation. I won't review that again. In-service body armor, that's kind of an ongoing expense that we normally do, identify replacement of those. Goal 13, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you raised your hand.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'm trying to go through this fairly quick, so I apologize. Or you may want me to go through it pretty quick, like I wish you'd just shut up and sit down. But,
No. We're not there yet.
That's good, I appreciate that. Because the city manager said, take as long as you need.
Got a little bit more line to give out.
Goal 13 has, we've accomplished that. We've updated some optics on some of those rifles. We're going to be working on replacing and updating some office furniture in our detective's office instead of hand-me-downs that we borrowed, 15, 20 years ago and stuff. The 15 has to do with the budget. So just a real quick overview of some of our major projects. A lot of them, we've done or they're in progress. The next one is the golden looking one, colored looking one. So this one has to do kind of with the IT technology for the entire city. And so I sat down with Stacy and she helped me on this. And so this is a product from both of us, not just for me by any means. So there's a lot in here. And even we're going over all this stuff, and then I think, well, we probably should have put that in there. We probably should have put this other thing in there. So it's not a full list on everything. It just kind of hits some highlights. The first one really has to do with the city website, right? So the majority of the website has been done, right? We've at least transitioned to the new website. There are still things we want to do with the new website. And it has abilities to have a lot more bells and whistles on it and all that. So we haven't really implemented several of those things, but I kind of look at the website then as once we kind of get it there, it's just an ongoing project, right, to establish that. So we have that working on. Goal 2 is upgrading some of our city servers and migration. We started that process. There's 3 or 4 of our servers that we've been able to migrate. Now we're going into another phase to basically migrate the rest of them and all the data and information.
This is
So
to the cloud kind of stuff. Okay.
most of this will be this fall. Well, actually this winter. It'll be this winter kind of with this project, and then maybe rolling into the spring to finish all that up. Along with that, we kind of go into the goal 3, which is aligning credentials for those employees. Currently, there's different credentials for emails versus computers. And so we're going to make some changes to align those up to make it easier for employees. But it's just kind of wasting time if we go ahead and do that project. We need to finish goal 2 first, sort of thing. 4 is a big one. We're really working on striving on many areas on improving our cybersecurity. You know, we have good systems in place, and I'm not going to go into great detail by any of that on what we do have in place, but we do have those. But there are other improvements like education, training, having some policies in place, and so we are actively working on that. That has to kind of do with 4 and 5 are related in that we've had some cybersecurity assessments done to look at our vulnerabilities, making recommendations and things. And so part of that is there is grant funding available to help pay for that. But it gets a little complicated because they still have money left for a 2022 cycle, but then they also have another cycle coming up for 2023. And so if we provide certain information, we can, it's a lot to work through. And the thing you really need to know is we're looking for funding that'll pay for this so that we don't have to pay for it for a few years. And then when we get that information, obviously for the grants and acceptance of that will come before the board for acceptance there. But
Are those grants through the state?
most of them, yes.
Okay.
Yes, correct. Mhm.
Thank you.
The further digital transformation assessment on number 6 is just talked about. They're doing some add-ons, but actually some, needs assessment for vehicle maintenance software add-on, which I think we actually have already done. We added the vehicle maintenance software. Yeah, I thought so. So we can check that one off. But finance, public forums are still some things. Looking at kiosks for our lobbies and all that, that's on the to-do list. So if somebody comes in and wants the permit instead of filling out a paper, maybe we have a kiosk or something they can enter that information. Or like for courts, they can pay their fines at a kiosk in the lobby and things like that. So there's other things we want to look at that are on the list to do as well. AV improvements. This is a product you're sitting that we're using tonight is some upgrades on this AV project. So after this one was complete, the one we're currently working on is for the community center. And so we did another kind of meeting with that. We did a walkthrough. They updated the information quotes, some different technology, newer technology. So we're really looking at the procurement process. So we're whether we go through a collaborative purchasing group or if we have to bid it out. That's what we're looking at now to do that. So the hope is to go through that this November, December, and possibly have the install starting anywhere from January to February, somewhere in there is the goal there. It'll be similar in that there'll be some TVs and some cameras in the community center. So for those that want to use that space for meetings, they can have the ability to do that. But also if they don't want to and they just want to have a party, hopefully, they can provide their own sound system or, whatever, things like that. But this will allow those that want to have more professional meetings, I say, instead of just space, they'll be able to do that. Our court is looking at transitioning from some new software. And so the county provides some software, and several agencies are using that. Saudi Daisy just switched to it. So we're making sure that transition for them goes well and getting some feedback. And then potentially looking at switching for there. So it's more of a gathering information and make sure it works. And is this what we need to do? Is this the best thing for Red Bank? So it's going through an evaluation there. And so that's what we're working on there. And Alicia, court clerk. 9 has to do with archiving a lot of our records. So that's really active. They've been working hard and getting quotes on that and trying to clear out a lot of the old records from courts as a starting point. And, so that's really in the procurement stage on kind of what direction there and to finalize those to get that project going. Hopefully that can be finalized, then maybe the project can get kicked off after the first of the year. And just some updating on goals 10, like just getting with our IT services, and we need to update our contract with them, identify some of our, they've been really good, but we've had a lot of movement here in these last few months. So we've got to take inventory and do some things with that to update a lot of our inventories and in the contracts, like I said. 11 is just kind of being on our radar to streamline some access control and some security cameras and things, kind of be on the same line from building to building instead of having 4 or 5 different systems, have maybe one type of system. So anyway, that's a quick overview of where a lot of the funds and things that y'all have approved or set out or goals that we set out on what some of our directions are on that. If you have any questions as you look these over, email me, whatever. I'll be happy to help you. If I can't, I'll divert it to somebody.
I do have a question. I didn't see anything, but maybe like it might have been under one of the categories and you just didn't like talk about it specifically. But I know with the ARPA funds that we allocated, we were going to look at doing like some facility assessments. But I didn't see that in there. I know Public Works Garage is like at the top of the list. But this facility, I believe, was also,
well, this was
higher up.
my part was just for the police department and IT, not necessarily the facilities.
Okay.
And I think there will be a presentation from the public works side of projects on ARPA funds.
Okay.
And all that. But as far as IT and technology, that part should fit into the updating of the facilities.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
No problem.
The domestic violence officer works every shift, is on call, or a specific time in the fleet?
Yes.
Okay. Because that could happen at any time.
Well, right. So it's not, so let me clarify. It's not a domestic violence detective. It's a violent crimes detective.
Okay.
Part of the duties is to focus in on domestic violence. And
Okay.
he's actually worked several cases with that, picked those up, some aggravated assaults and things. So our violent crimes detective currently is also our canine officer.
Okay.
And so we are kind of in a transition mode. The dog, the canine, is a little too old to just transfer to somebody for like a year, but yet I still want to be able to use the dog because we've invested a lot of money in there. But currently he's worked all kinds of different hours. So he has come in the evenings and he'll work patrol, because part of it is focusing in on crime areas, right, or problem areas. So just kind of being seen and using the dog for that. But then also by him being here in the evenings, he also has picked up some violent crime cases and some domestic violence cases. And then there have been other times where he's had to be here during the daytime hours as well, for court, for training, and to work on cases that he's picked up, or office administrative work and things like that. So he's been bounced around a little bit,
Yeah.
but he's been very accommodating. I mean,
Glad to
it's
have
not,
him. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
He works with us on that, and so it's been very beneficial that he's able to do that.
So the domestic violence is within the violence
It's part of it.
part
Yes,
of
ma'am.
it. Okay. Okay.
Yes, and there was one case he was here, the officers, I think, made the arrest, but he ended up picking up the case because of it. It was an aggravated assault, so it was a little bit more than just a slap on the face. And so then he picked it up and finished out the case, which is good, which is what part of the position's intended for. Absolutely. Oh yeah, he started working his first shift on stuff like that. So.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any more questions for the chief?
Nope.
Thank you so much for the update.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, next on the agenda, and we just have a few more minutes before we want to defer to citizen comments, which is all right, because all the rest of the items on our agenda today are on our regular agenda. In fact, because we have agenda items for the next several items, should we have an open house update? Should we skip to that so that we can make sure it's covered?
She's doing a presentation in the regular meeting, right?
Oh, that's right. You have a presentation in the regular meeting. Okay. So all of that's going to be covered. All right. So is there anything remaining on the agenda that we want to talk about in the work session before we get to citizen comments, since we just have a few minutes remaining? Or anything anybody has any specific questions about for staff? No? Okay. If not, then we'll go ahead and move into the citizens comments portion.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the time for citizen comments. Please observe these rules for citizen comments. Citizen comments are limited to 2 minutes or less here in work session. The city recorder will operate the timer visible on the dais. Please respect her direction and conclude any comments as time expires. All citizen comments should be addressed to the board as a whole and not to a particular commissioner, the city staff, or the audience. The commission is here to listen, not to necessarily respond or engage in conversation, so please do not expect to reply during public comment. At this time, citizens are invited to the podium to comment. Please begin by stating your name and address.
Don McKenzie, 110 Brentwood. Thinking quickly on my feet is not one of my strengths. So as I've been sitting back here, I realized that some compliments and recognition for all the work going on in the cemetery needs to go to the 5 of you commissioners, the city manager, Mr. Tate and his staff. There's a whole lot of people whose determination and intentions have made progress at the cemetery happen. And I'm just proud to see the city taking serious pride in that property and investing in it, and in other properties and other places in the city that we citizens see progress being made. So I want to make sure that point was clear.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mr. McKenzie. Anyone else who would like to speak for any items on today's work session agenda?
I'm Sal Rigo Jr., 804 Creek Overlook. I'm not a resident of Red Bank yet. I agree with Don. I want to say that I appreciate, and the advisory board appreciates, that you all trust us to do the work in that cemetery, and I wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sal. All right, any further comments? All right, if there are no more comments, then we'll go ahead and adjourn this work session briefly, and we'll reconvene at 6 o'clock for our regular meeting.
Time for